Complete mismatch. Second round stoppage. Chris Eubank Jr. stops a fighter by the name of American fighter by the name of Tony Jeter or Tony Jeter. T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live, and Chris Eubank Jr. is okay. B-level fighter. From me watching him and covering him for the last 2 years or so, I'm going to say that he does not beat Gennady Golovkin. He likely does not beat Danny Jacobs. He can probably beat Danny Jacobs maybe from a puncher's chance. He doesn't beat a Peter Quillin, and he doesn't beat a Billy Joe Saunders in a rematch. Now, fighting guys like Tony Jeter or Jeter doesn't help him in any way, shape, or form. If you don't know, he's no longer a Frank Warren fighter. He's a matchroom fighter, and he's going to get a lot more exposure. One thing that we didn't see is we didn't see his father doing the antics in between the first round and the second round. He has a new trainer in Adam Booth, and maybe he'll, I want to say more disciplined, but he's not an undisciplined fighter. But then when it came to his last trainer, he totally didn't respect him. And now Tony Jeter or Jeter is, I guess he's complaining to the referee that the fight shouldn't have been stopped. Anyway, I'm T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. Here's something crazy. Okay. Wait, even though he won, Adam Smith, one of the Sky Sports commentators, was saying that even though Chris Eubank Jr. won tonight, he's going to have to give up his WBA Interim title because last month another fighter fought for the WBA Interim title, and basically Chris Eubank Jr. now is titleless. I don't know. Maybe somebody needs to explain that situation to me, but long story short, he's supposed to be the mandatory for the winner of Danny Jacobs or Peter Quillin or Gennady Golovkin being a WBA interim champion. But the WBA is such a fucked up sanctioning body to the point where you really don't know what their belts mean. For example, I had an interview with Keith Thurman earlier this year where he was saying that because he's the WBA world champion and Floyd Mayweather's WBA super world champions don't have any mandatories. Now, Keith Thurman, a world champion, WBA world champion, is saying that he's not the super world champion's mandatory. In other words, Aries Landy Lara is not Floyd Mayweather's mandatory at 154 pounds. Danny Jacobs is not Gennady Golovkin's mandatory at 160 pounds. But then when it came to 168, here's where it gets crazy with the WBA. When you get to the 168 division, they ordered Andre Ward versus Carl Froch. Carl Froch didn't want to fight Andre Ward, but they stripped Carl Froch, who's a WBA. It's such a confusing organization. So we really don't know what that belt means that Chris Eubank Jr. does or does not have at this point in time. We're waiting for his post-fight interview because I want to see if he calls out Gennady Golovkin. Right now, this video is real time. He just knocked out or stopped Tony Jeter in the second round. Same things we see from a typical Chris Eubank Jr. fight where he's overmatched against the opponent. He's stalking him. He's doing this whole thing. He's fighting in burst. And when it came to Billy Joe Saunders, I remember predicting that, will he be doing all that stuff against Billy Joe Saunders? And he sure wasn't. He put on his best performance as a fighter, as a boxer against Billy Joe Saunders and still didn't get the win. And he rightfully should have lost that fight, and as he did. So I'm thinking, when it comes to like a clean, effective puncher like Gennady Golovkin, he would annihilate a fighter like Chris Eubank Jr. because his defense is suspect. Even when he fought before against guys that were lesser known than Tony Jeter, he's doing all this. And they still hitting him. He's still getting hit on the top of his head and everything. So don't get me wrong, he's good for the sport of boxing, but he's the type of fighter where you really can't put him somewhere. You really can't say, oh, he can beat this person or he can beat that person because we really don't know. And he lost to Billy Joe Saunders, and Billy Joe Saunders would get beat up by Gennady Golovkin. So, and I'm not saying that Billy Joe Saunders is bad. Billy Joe Saunders is good and he's a very good boxer, but Billy Joe Saunders has his flaws himself. So Chris Eubank Jr. says he would like to rematch Billy Joe within the next year or so. I don't see it happening. Billy Joe Saunders, if you don't know, is taking on Andy Lee for the 160-pound title December the 19th. And basically, I would love to see maybe I know what division do Caleb Smith? Caleb Smith fights in 168. So right now it's looking like Chris Eubank Jr. is going to be campaigning at 160. not 168. And when it comes to the 160-pound belt holders, we know Miguel Cotto's the WBC, Gennady Golovkin is the WBA and the IBF, and then you have the WBO, who's Andy Lee taking on Billy Joe Saunders. So the question I have is, what path does Chris Eubank Jr. take? And they're taking a long time for this. This is supposed to be live, and I'm guessing we're waiting for the post-fight interview between Chris Eubank Jr. and Sky Sports, because I want to see who he calls out personally. So let's get to it right now. I think it's coming up next. Oh, that's a promo for Klitschko versus Fury. But like I was saying, I don't really know how to rate Chris Eubank Jr. because when it comes to, you know, marketability, he's good. He's got his father's name, but also he's one of those fighters that people like to dislike him. So it's kind of hard for me to say, well, you know, he can be a superstar, because realistically, if you can't get past Billy Joe Saunders, there's a lot of other fighters at 160 pounds that I really think he would have some real problems with. Like, for example, I would like to see a Chris Eubank Jr. versus a Willie Monroe. Willie Monroe can likely beat a Chris Eubank Jr. Why? Because of the movement and the boxing ability. You see what I'm saying? I'm not like Chris Eubank Jr. doesn't have the ability to cut off the ring like a Golovkin would, or Canelo would, you know, or Miguel Cotto would, you know, and I'm guessing that it's not really respectful for me to be putting him up there against those. I mean, put his name up there with those big names. But I'm sorry, I've been hearing too many people talk about how much of a star he was going to be this week, and I'm just like, yo, what are y'all looking at? I mean, I like watching him fight, but at the same time, he's really flawed in so many different ways, and he's looked at as being this big, powerful puncher, when I really don't see him as being that powerful.
The guy was, some people might think the fight was stopped early. I can't control what the referee.
Yeah, it was stopped early a little bit.
You know, I get a hell of a performance. All credit to the fight. He came here, you know, into a foreign country and did it, and then fought in front of a crowd which was fully against him. So, you know, a lot of respect to him. This is a warm-up fight. This is the fight that's getting me ready. I've been out for 8 months now, so this was, you know, get rid of the ring rust and ready for December 12th against a man called Spike O'Sullivan.
That fight's next. We'll talk to Eddie about that. With that in mind, would you have liked to have gone a few more rounds?
Of course, you know, this guy, you know, you can't blame him. You know, he was gone. He was hurt badly. People want to see blood. Some of the fans, they want to see somebody get really hurt. That's the unfortunate part of the boxing. But you know, he wasn't in any position to continue, as far as I can see. You know, rounds are done in the gym and sparring, which I can get, you know, at any time. So you know, I'm coming for Spike O'Sullivan now. It's going to be one hell of a fight. He's been talking a lot of mess, and so it's time for some punishment.
We did get the one into round, and a lot was made of that in the build-up. How did it feel from your point of view with the old and the new head in the corner?
So far, it's working well. You know, there's no clash. Everything's working smooth. It was smooth in the changing room, and as you guys saw, it was smooth up on the big stage. So, you know, this is a taste of things to come.
I want to bring in promoter Eddie Hearn, because you've got news. Will it be Spike O'Sullivan on December the 12th, and what will be at stake?
It will be Spike O'Sullivan December 12th on the huge O2 show, and delighted to announce as well the WBA have made that a final eliminator for the WBA world title, with the winner of that bout becoming the mandatory challenger for the winner of Peter Quillin against Jacobs just a week before that. So huge news and a massive fight for Spike O'Sullivan.
You should see how Chris Eubank Sr. is looking at him.
He felt the power in the first round. He didn't really want to be in there. You know, very sharp hands, sharp punching. We know he's changing things with Adam Booth. He's hitting very, very hard. But now, you know, all roads to that Spike O'Sullivan fight. This is a real test. You know, animosity. It's going to be exciting in the build-up. It's going to be exciting on the night. And the winner becomes the mandatory challenger for the winner of Quillin against Jacobs. It's a huge fight.
English, I'd like to bring in you now. It's a big fight against Spike O'Sullivan. Is that one that you feel Junior's ready for now?
Absolutely. I mean, the ring rust, it only takes one fight to get rid of it. And so, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as my experience tells me, he's going to be right on point for that. And so, the disappointment in Tony Jetta not being able to stand up to the punches and the referee actually being very, I suppose, sensible and actually saving him from taking further punishment, I think in the next fight, it's going to be a barnstormer.
Does it bring back memories of your fight, your clash with Steve Collins?
An Irishman, you mean? Well, it didn't, but now you've reminded me. Well, yes, I mean, look, you know, in terms of my fights with Steve Collins, what I would like the public to remember is this fact. I went over there on St. Patrick's weekend. Now that, it's not whether I won or lost, it's about kahunas, which is what us, Chris Eubank Jr., Chris Eubank, Ronnie Davis, Adam Booth is what we've got, kahunas, which is why we are chasing Gennady Golovkin.
Oh,
we'll
no.
go through these guys. So next week, the next fight, next month, the next fight, December 12th, it's going to be, he's going to show a little bit more of what he can do.
Apologies if anyone's offended by that. Chris, if Spike is watching, the final word to you, straight down the barrel of this camera, what's going to happen on December 12th?
War, all-out war. And, you know, please back up these words you've been talking about for the last 2-3 years, because I'm going to be going in there an absolute animal. I hope you're ready for it.
Well done, everyone.
Okay, Eddie Hearn.
Alright, so now we know that the winner of Danny Jacobs versus Peter Quillin is going to be fighting Chris Eubank Jr. or Spike O'Sullivan. Spike O'Sullivan lost every round to Billy Joe Saunders. I'm not even going to get into that because I'm running out of time. We'll talk about that in another video. Still a good, solid step-up fight for Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr. said nothing about Gennady Golovkin, but then you hear his father say they're chasing Gennady Golovkin, and it's just, you're chasing for your son to get his ass whooped in front of everybody on HBO, because that's what it's going to be. It's good that Chris Eubank Jr. is getting some American exposure, because he does have, like, even though he's not as good as he may make himself out to be, or his father may make himself out to be, he's good at selling fights, and Americans would be attracted to the fighting, not the fighting style. Well, yeah, the fighting style, and the way he comes into the ring, you know, all silent, the way he stalks his prey and around the ring. Americans will be very attracted to that. So it's good to see that if he wins against Spike O'Sullivan, he'll likely be fighting the winner of Danny Jacobs versus Peter Quillin on PBC, National American Television. So that's something we're going to be, I'm going to be looking forward to, is seeing Chris Eubank and his father on American National Television, which can happen sometime, well, which is looking like it's going to happen sometime in 2016 if he beats Spike O'Sullivan. T Street Controversy. This is T Street Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. Please subscribe.